Welcome back to the channel, folks. I've been struggling with this lighting today, so I didn't want to waste any more time playing with it, so this is what we're sticking with. Hope it's okay. Today's video is going to be all about neutral palettes. Neutral palettes that I personally love, that I reach for when I want to do a neutral eye look. This is all very subjective, by the way. This is not me telling you, you need this palette, this one will work for you. This is literally just what palettes I reach for when I think to myself that I want to do a neutral look. Before we get into it, I just want to say I am excluding all of my Pat McGrath palettes just because I'm always so attracted to those pops of color in those palettes that I always end up doing something with the colorful shadows in those palettes. I have yet to, I think, ever really do a completely neutral look with a Pat McGrath palette. I didn't want to include any palettes in this listing. It's not a ranking, it's just a listing. But I didn't want to include any palettes that are predominantly neutral, but I reach into them more so that I can get, maybe a mostly neutral look, but with a fun pop of color. I wanted to stick to palettes that I think of when I think today I want to do a completely neutral eye look. And one last thing before we get into it, I wanted to give a little honorable mention to these little guys from ColourPop. This one is going coconuts. I've only used this one time, and I didn't even use a lot of shimmers. I used a Super Shock shadow with this one, so I'm still getting to know this guy. Maybe it'll turn out to be a favorite for, neutral looks in the future, but still getting to know this one. I do love the ColourPop 9-pan palettes though, and I am also still getting to know this one. Actually, I have yet to get to know this one. I haven't even swatched it yet. This is Wild Child. Just wanted to mention them. If you've been around, you know how much I love my ColourPop 9-pans, so I could see myself really digging those in the future. Let's start off with the palette that I have on my eyes today. This is still a pretty new addition to my collection. This is a neutral palette that everybody seems to love. This is the Natasha Denona Gold palette. Look at how beautiful this thing is. It's so gorgeous. I will admit that the most exciting thing for me personally about this palette is these kind of more green blue shades. Like, look at that. That's called Lime Chrome, and it is just an absolute dream. But I just hit my hat with the palette. But I do also really love these neutral shadows. Like, all of these gold shadows, these like shimmers and things, they're all so beautiful, and these mattes actually work quite well for me. I don't really dig the way browns look on me. I'm going to talk a little bit about different brown palettes that I have that I do like on me, but I don't really love a completely neutral brown on me. I prefer either something a little warmer, something a little bit more like burgundy, or something that leans a little bit pink, something that's a little more gray. I don't know. I just don't like a completely just brown. I like when it's got a little something else going on. And these shadows definitely look in the pan like they're very kind of brown, but I mean, I did choose some very kind of chocolatey shades for my look today. I started with this one down here, Teak, and then I used this one here called Log to deepen up. I kind of took Teak all through my crease, then I took Log to deepen up at the outer corner. Teak is also down here. Then I used this gorgeous brown shimmer. This is the only brown shimmer that I've ever seen where I just feel very excited by it. It's so chocolatey and beautiful. It's called Varus, and it's just gorgeous. It's just such a gorgeous chocolatey shade. Anyway, I don't want to talk about it for too long. I took Varus all over my lid. It did end up getting covered up by some other stuff, but we'll get there. I took this shade called Kava and I put it on the inner part of the lid, and then I took this white shade here. That one is called Sparks, put that on the inner corner, kind of dragged it in a little bit. Then I took more of Kava, like here, on like the inner part of the lower lash line. I think I used a little bit of this matte here also on the lower lash line, just to kind of create more of a gradient with the, it's called Aria, just to create a little more of a gradient with the mattes, but I don't know, it's not super prominent in the look, but it is there. And then to finish off, I took this gorgeous gold. It felt a little unfinished, so I took the gorgeous gold, I kind of put it with my finger on the center lid and then tapped it outwards. It covered up a lot of this beautiful chocolatey shade, but it also kind of mixed with it. What is that called? Oro is the gold shade, so that's the look that I have on today. But yeah, as you can see, this is a gorgeous neutral palette with these like fun pops over here that make it even better. And I just, I think it's beautiful. I like this one a lot. Do you like this look? I do. Staying on Natasha Denona, I don't have all of her completely neutral palettes in my collection. I might be getting them in the near future, we'll see. I'm on an eyeshadow palette no buy right now, but I do have this one. This is not completely neutral. It does have like these purpley pinky shades down here that are kind of the star of the show in my mind, but I've also made really beautiful neutral looks with this palette. This is such an autumnal palette for me, and I'm definitely going to be reaching for it in the fall, and oh, I just love it. My first ever video on the channel was me kind of giving my first impressions with this palette, and I don't know, I just love this one. It's just very special in my opinion. It has this really nice black here. It has this very shifty, see, it turns green and then it's like pink, purple. It also turns like a gold or like a coppery color. You can't really see it on camera, but it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful palette, and even without these colorful shades, like, it's still a beautiful, it has warm tones, it has cool tones, it's kind of got everything that you need. I love this palette. It's one of my favorites from Natasha Denona. Let's talk a bit about some Huda palettes. So first, let's talk about Naughty Nude. This one is definitely like a chocolatey brown palette, but it does have some more of those burgundy shades that I was talking about before. I love this palette. I think it's so beautiful. And yes, I will reach for it for like the pop of the red, this kind of blue shifting purpley shade, the like pink, but I will reach for this for, I mean, I could do like a chocolatey brown look, kind of like what I have on today, just maybe with a different gold, because there's nothing quite this shade in this palette, but you could definitely do something very kind of brown, very sexy burgundy, really beautiful. I definitely think that this is one of the more interesting neutral palettes that I've ever seen, and I think it was one of the first like pretty much completely neutral palettes that I ever bought, and I love it. I think it's so beautiful. I need to use it more. I'll probably pull it out in the fall. It's got a very autumnal color story. Similarly though, we also have the Empowered palette. This one is pretty new to my collection. I haven't used it a ton, although I have been using these like gel shades as liners. I do have this one down here, the kind of reddish brown one, on my eyes today. Hope you like that. But for the rest of the palette, I mean, I put off buying this palette for a very long time, because to me it was like, I already have Naughty Nude, I have a lot of other neutral palettes in my collection. I didn't feel like I needed this one. This one also has warm tone neutrals and cool tones, but the big selling point for me for this palette was like these gorgeous golden shades. I really do love a good gold. I think that it can make an eye look really stunning. So I always had this palette in the back of my mind, like maybe I should get that, maybe one day I will get it, and then it went on sale for half off, so I grabbed it. And so, like I said, it is still pretty new to my collection, but this is definitely going to be a go-to moving forward whenever I want to do a neutral look, especially if I want one of these really gorgeous, intense golden shades. I'm gonna say this is the last one in the more like true brown category, although this one also has kind of different undertones to it. This is the Glam Light Chocolate Martini palette, and this one is another one that is just so diverse in what you can do with it. It also has those stunning golds, like I said. You know, that's something that I always look for in, not always look for, but it's something that is always a plus when I am looking at a neutral palette. It has like this shifty kind of purpley blue shade here. It has, I think that my one gripe with this palette is the only inner corner shade really is this one here, and it has such an intense yellow shift to it. I don't think that that goes with these more kind of pink, red, well, maybe the orange is fine, but like the pink, the red, the blue, purple. I feel like it doesn't necessarily fit every look that you could do with this palette, which that's not such a big deal because you can just use a highlighter on the inner corner or whatever. But I do overall think that this is a gorgeous color story, and it does make me, it's like an exciting neutral palette, and it makes me want to pop on a nice neutral look, which for me, being such a color lover, is, you know, it has to be special for me to want to, you know, reach for the palette and do that kind of look. You know what, I'm gonna say that this one is also kind of in the vein of, you know what, this is more of like a rosy neutral palette. This one is, I haven't used this one a ton, but it is, in my opinion, such a gorgeous neutral palette. This is from Unearthly Cosmetics. This is the Surrender palette. This was from their Valentine's Day mystery box, and yes, you can do something more colorful. You can do something pinky, purple, red, but you can also do like a very warm toned or rosy, just soft neutral look with this palette. And I need to do more looks with this palette, but I just wanted to mention this one because it really is gorgeous. I won't linger on it too long because you can't get it anymore, but I just wanted to mention that one because I do think it's beautiful. Next, let's talk about rosy toned neutral palettes, pink toned neutral palettes. For me personally, pink neutrals, like pinky nudes, soft pink colors, muted pinks, they look really good on me. I think better than something like a brown or something, you know, of that nature. One of my absolute favorite palettes that fit into that pinky neutral category, this gorgeous little pinky palette from ColourPop. You can do something more dramatic with these kind of almost berry kind of shades. They're not actually berries, but they're just sort of deeper rose tone shades. You could do something more dramatic with those, but if you wanted to just do something light and soft, I mean, look at all of these like soft rosy neutrals. There's like this kind of more vibrant pink. It's still pretty muted, especially compared to the other pinks that you can get from ColourPop, but it's, you know, it's more of a pop of color if you wanted to include that, but you don't have to. I've done really soft, neutral pink looks just using this palette. I think that this is a gorgeous, gorgeous palette. I need to use it more. And then speaking of rosy neutrals, how could you not think of the Natasha Denona Retro palette? This one, again, it's almost like a bigger version of Blush Crush. Did I say the name of Blush Crush? Did I say the name of Blush Crush before when I was showing you? This is Blush Crush. I don't think I said that. But it's Retro is like a bigger version of the palette. This was one of the first Natasha Denona palettes that I ever bought. One of the only real gripes that I have about this palette is the sparkly shades. They're nice, but they're kind of on the softer side. They don't like do a ton to really bring out the sparkle and the shine, but I mean, this is such a beautiful palette. It has like, this is a pretty deep shade over here. This one here is probably one of my favorites from Natasha Denona. It's called Rebel. Nope, Rebellion. And it's just this beautiful, like, deep red burgundy cream to powder shadow. I love this palette, and I've done several really beautiful pinky neutral looks with it. I would recommend this thing to anybody. I love this palette so much. But you can also do the more kind of berry purpley looks with this, which is fun. It's very diverse, but if you wanted to do a very neutral eye look, this one, it's gorgeous. This next one is definitely a rosy palette, but it's also a cool tone neutral palette. This is Rose Quartz from Huda. This is what it looks like. I very nearly did not include this one because I kind of don't necessarily reach for this one for super neutral looks. I always want to include like these poppy shades, and you know, I want to amp up the looks, but you know what, they're very soft, like shifty kind of shades. Not soft, shifty shades. The shimmer in them is like really, really crazy and intense. I'm sure you can tell just by looking at them, but they're not just like wham bam blues or purples. They have these like neutral soft bases to them. I love this palette. Look at how beautiful this is. This is another one of my absolute favorite palettes. Retro is one of my absolute favorites. Just these kinds of palettes with these like pinky neutrals. Ooh, I love it. I love this palette. Seeing it in person too is like, I'm sure it looks lovely on camera, but seeing it in person, if you don't have this palette, I know that I said that this is like subjective and like I'm not here to tell you what you should and shouldn't have, but you should have this one. It's incredible. While we're discussing kind of cool tone neutrals though, because that's another aspect of this palette that you might miss, there's like these cool tone like taupey neutrals in here. So there's that as well. You don't have to do the rosy neutrals. But while we're talking about those cool tone neutral color stories, I don't have a ton of them in my collection, but this is one that I really love. This is Troublemaker from ColourPop, and I really was shook by how good the quality was in this palette. These are very inexpensive palettes from ColourPop. I don't remember how much this one in particular cost. I don't know if you can still get this one though. I don't think you can. I think this might be discontinued, so I won't talk about it for too long. But, you know, these 12 pans... Is this a 12 pan? Wait, 3 times 4? Yeah, this is a 12 pan. So these 12 pan palettes from ColourPop, they're pretty inexpensive. I think they're like maybe... Are they 16? Are they $16? They might be 16. But they're really, really beautiful. And the quality of these shadows... I really was surprised by how just buttery they are, how beautifully they like blend out. Like, the way that they apply to the eye, it's probably not going to look that great on my hand, but, oh, actually, it's kind of like blending out nicely. I don't know. But the way that they apply to the eye, these are just such beautiful eyeshadows. I should use this one more as well. This is another one that I kind of will forget that I have, and then I remember that I have it, and I'm like, oh my god, I love that palette. Just a few more palettes left. I wanted to mention Blow and Smoke from ColourPop. This is another... would you call this a cool tone neutral, or would you just call this grayscale? Because it's definitely a grayscale palette. You could kind of say that it's cool toned. I know that grays are often considered, you know, cool tone. These are not like taupes, these are not, you know, cool tone browns. They are very much gray eyeshadows, and then you have black and white, and there's like these gorgeous shimmers. Like this one, wait, is it this one? One of these, I can never tell just looking at them in the pan, but one of them is a shimmery black and one is a shimmery like gunmetal, and then this one is like a really light silver, almost like white. It's so beautiful. I think that this palette is so gorgeous, and anytime I do a look with it, I'm always like, oh my god, this looks so good. I don't find it easy to make grays work for me, because sometimes I feel like I look a little bit dead, but I can always make this palette work. I love this palette. Let's talk a little bit about warm tone neutrals now. I only have 2 palettes left. I was thinking of putting the Natasha Denona Sunset palette in this section, but you know what? When I reach for that palette, I want to use the pops of color. I don't really reach for that palette to just do like a warm toned neutral look. I always want to do like the orangey shades or like the red or the yellow or whatever. But these 2 palettes are definitely my warm tone neutral go-tos. So the first one here is the Patrick Ta Major Dimension 2 Rose. Little doors popping open. It doesn't want to stay closed. But I love this palette. This is definitely one of my favorite palettes, and I don't really talk about it enough. This one definitely has these rose tone neutrals, and I'll definitely use them. You know, I'll use the palette for that as well. So this could have fit in that category. But my favorite part of this palette is just this right here. And, well, even that. Like, the red terracotta color and this incredible shimmer. Let me just take a little on my finger. I love this shimmer so much. Let me see if I can... It's like an orangey red. It's so shimmery and gorgeous. I love this palette, and I will usually wear it, you know, on date nights and stuff with my husband. I just love it. I think it's so gorgeous and so sultry. I also really love these, what are they called? Cream shadows. I really love them. They perform really well for me. So just a great palette in general. There's like duochromes in here. This one is a duochrome. Maybe it's just that one. I mean, you could kind of consider that a duochrome because it's like kind of red to gold, shifty. On camera, it looks like it's turning a little green. Does it turn green? I think it's just the tone of the gold, but really beautiful palette. Then finally, I wanted to just show you this one. This is another discontinued palette, so we won't talk about it for too long. But this one, for me, has very sentimental appeal. I know it has like those pops of green, but I don't really reach for those, and it has this gorgeous red, but I've literally never touched it because I don't want to mess up the little like red dragon symbol in there. Is that the red dragon symbol? I thought the red dragon symbol was different. Maybe it's, I don't know what it says, but it's a symbol and I don't want to mess it up. I don't really reach for the greens that much in this palette, although like this shade here is a multi-chrome that shifts like, where's the frickin' green, bro? Why can't I get the green to show up? Well, either way, oh, maybe if I bring it over here, I don't know. There's some green. Oh, what if I swatch it? Maybe the swatch will show the green. It's not. It doesn't want to show up on camera at all. You can see like pink and bronze. There's definitely green in it though. I can see it in person. It's not showing up at all on camera though. There's that. But generally I don't really reach for those pops of greens. I know some people consider green to be neutral, but I don't really reach for those. I usually reach for like these peachy, kind of burgundy shades, just compulsively swatching that other green shimmer because it's so freaking gorgeous. This one kind of looks like lime chrome actually. Oh, I never realized that it was like that. It's so gorgeous. Anyway, I definitely reach for this one when I want to do a nice warm toned neutral look because, I mean, how could you not? There's like a pinky shade, there's like this bronze shade, there's this is actually a cool tone shade. I'm sorry, I'm just ranting at this point, but I love this palette. It has sentimental value to me. The only reason that I don't use it more is because this shade here is kind of the lightest shade, this beautiful peachy shade, and it's a little dark for my skin tone. But I will say I was just swatching some Odin's eyeshadows the other night, and I think that since I got the Alba palette, there's a really nice shade in there that I could use as a transition and then go in with the rest of this palette and it'll be fine. So maybe I'll do that in the near future. But yeah, usually my looks are a little bit more dramatic with that because the lightest shade that I want to use is a little dark for me. So I end up looking slightly intense when I do that, but I still love that palette a lot. Okay, so that's my favorite neutral palettes in my collection when I want to do a nice neutral look. These are the palettes that I reach for. I'm sure, like, my husband got me Divine Rose 1, the original Divine Rose, for my birthday as like an early birthday present. I've had it for a while, but I haven't used it yet. I'm sure once I use it, that one will also wind up being a favorite neutral palette. Like I said, all of those Pat McGrath palettes that I have are beautiful, but whenever I reach for them, I always find it irresistible to reach for those pops of color. Like, I can't help myself. So that's why I didn't put them on this list, because when I do use them, I don't really use them as completely neutral palettes. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this. Let me know what your favorite neutral palettes are. What neutral palettes do you have in your collection? Like I said, I'm very much a lover of colorful eyeshadow. So if I'm going to buy a neutral palette, it has to give me something exciting. It can't just be same old, same old. So these palettes are my favorite neutral palettes. Let me know what yours are. I hope that you enjoyed. If you are new here, I do post every Sunday and every Wednesday. So my next one will be up on Wednesday. My birthday is coming up. I think I'm gonna use the Divine Rose palette and do a little video. I don't know what the theme of the video is gonna be though. I hope that you enjoyed. If you're new, I hope that you will subscribe, and I will be seeing you guys on Wednesday. In the meantime, I do hope that you have a great week. Peace.